and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So, in this episode, I will be discussing Disney's 1985 animated fantasy adventure, The Black Cauldron. Disney's 25th animated classic. So, this film features a story apparently loosely based on the first two books of the Chronicles of Prydain by Lloyd Alexander, which are a collection of 5 novels that are themselves based on Welsh mythology. So before I get started, I do want to apologise. The pronunciations of some of these names of the characters in this film, they're going to be a little bit off, I'm sure. So I do apologise. No offence intended. I do say loosely as well with regards to where the story is based from, as you know, it's pretty much like always. I haven't read the books, and so I'm unable to comment as to with respect to basically how close the books are to the movie and you know how that actually works. I've just kind of taken my basis for that from what I've read of other people's comments on the movie and what their opinions are of it, and that respect. If any of you do have any more of an understanding of the comparison here, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. For some of my previous movies, that's worked absolutely excellently. It does always intrigue me as to what people think of a movie if they've read the book, as this really can sometimes offer a very different viewpoint to mine, especially given, you know, pretty much that I never read the book or can't remember it at the very least, possibly the exception of Stephen King. Anywho, The Black Cauldron, from the very moment this film starts, you can tell this is going to be a very, very different Disney movie. It's set in the fictional world of Prydain. Prydain, is that right? Prydain? It follows the story of Taran, a young boy, or Taran, that's it, Taran, a young apprentice pig keeper to one special pig, Henwen, who has the ability of second sight to see visions of what people most desire and, I think, into the future. A bit complicated, but I think that's what Henwen can do. Henwen's ability allows her to see the secrets of the Black Cauldron, which is a device of unimaginable power, and one which is sought by the Horned King, as voiced by John Hurt, and basically an evil ruler intent on raising his army of the dead. Yep, in a Disney movie, you heard me right, an army of the dead. Pretty dark for a Disney, eh? And not the jolly comical type of army from the dead, like, you know, like 1971's Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Not the jolly ones. This is some serious dark magic stuff. The Horned King does actually find out about Henwen, and in order to protect her knowledge, her life, and the rest of humanity for what it's worth, Taran, I'm going to get this wrong all the time, Taran takes Henwen away in hope that she will be safe. However, this soon turns into a rescue mission when Henwen is indeed captured and taken to the Horned King. Along the way, to save Henwen, Taran meets a number of colourful, and at least it'll give you all a laugh, colourful and intriguing characters, which do seem to kind of just jump out of nowhere each time we get to see them. Together, they do formulate a plan as the kind of movie goes along to find the Black Cauldron and destroy its power before it can be used to summon evil once more. So, again, this film, you know, from the moment this film starts, there is a noticeable difference between this and any other Disney which has come before. And indeed, any Disney classic that's followed, I think. It kind of starts out and plays through almost like a horror film at times. It even goes in for a number of jump scares. And I must say that in this respect, it would make a great entry point for a bit of a scare at Halloween for those kind of too young for the really hardcore stuff. Although I wouldn't suggest this for the really youngsters. No, not at all. It is quite scary, to be fair. Certainly some of the visuals are. The movie is a fantasy adventure of sorts. It has a very mystical feel, and is overall, like I've said, very dark. You can tell that it is trying to take inspiration and potentially cash in on other such adventure movies of like round about the time, like the 1982 and 1984 Conan movies, 1982's Dark Crystal. But overall, the movie is more of a mismatch of themes. Almost like the filmmakers knew what they wanted to do. You can kind of get that feeling as the movie's going on, that there was this general target, I suppose, that they wanted to reach. But at the same time, kind of trying to put something this dark into the usual Disney model. And really, it just didn't mesh. You know, when... it's hard to describe, but they had the model of a Disney film, they had what they wanted, and the two just, they don't go together in this instance. I do find the dialogue in the movie quite dry as well, quite wooden, to be fair. It did feel quite forced and not nearly as natural as it could have been. In fact, it is actually quite blunt at times, to be quite fair. It has none of the usual kind of rounded edges that you would find in a Disney movie. Not at all. The movie does try to build in some cuteness with a number of different creatures. Namely, of course, Henwen, a pig, a little pot kind of bellied pig, and a fluffy thing named Gurgi, as voiced by John Byner, who kind of befriends Taran and on his quest. But somehow it just doesn't capture it right, you know? And overall, these elements just do seem a little bit off as we see them in the film. Now, I am not for 1 minute saying that a Disney movie should be all singing, all lovey-dovey, everybody's happy, you know, the birds are flying and tweeting, head in the clouds kind of sort of stuff. You know, this movie tries to set itself apart from all of that for the most part. You know, it is distinctly different. And, you know, to be fair, the fact that they dared to be different here is certainly worthy of respect and admiration. Absolutely. It is very much an attempt at a more grown-up, more involved, and very, to be fair, complex story. But because it's Disney, and I think that, you know, the Disney mentality is it's got to be for kids, it becomes that clash of style, in my opinion, that truly stops this film from actually being something exceptional. It had the building blocks there. It really did. You know, if they wanted to be dark, it should have just been so, to be fair. But it's 1980s, you know, I don't know what people would have thought. I just think there was perhaps reluctance to really go full swing with this movie. And unfortunately, it really does show. One thing the film does do really well, however, is the animation. Even though the film has some macabre elements to it, to be quite fair, the animation itself is beautiful. You know, darkly beautiful, but beautiful nonetheless. And tremendously detailed in its form. It is vibrant and fine-tuned to really bring this world alive. The world itself is absolutely fantastic. You can really tell that this was where the real attention to detail and the real labour of love actually was in this film. And it is by far the most redeeming quality, absolutely. In terms of characters, there is quite an interesting selection throughout the film. But unfortunately, none are really kind of examined in any great detail or nor really fleshed out to any great extent. We don't get any kind of backstory to any of them, I don't think. Not any of them. And the relationships between each of them, much like the dialogue, seem very forced, unnatural, and often really does lack real true emotion. And indeed, at times, even with each other, they're actually quite blunt and angered, to be quite fair. There's a few scenes between Taran and Gergi that just come across as out and out mean. Taran, for that respect, is not your typical hero, for sure. Not at all. The best character by far, however, and way underutilised, in my opinion. It may be the macabre in me, you know, but it's the Horned King himself. It really is. He has to be one of the visually scariest Disney villains to ever grace the screen. He is delectable. He has far too little on-screen time, absolutely, and not really any kind of action. At the end, his demise is way too easy, in my opinion, and it would have been great to have seen this character yield more of his power. Oh, yes. And understand just how evil he could be. Instead, it's more or less insinuated, but really just kind of glossed over, more so than anything else. One character that did have me kind of chuckling quite a bit, but not really, unfortunately, because they were funny. Moreover, and I can't really say whether or not Peter Jackson actually cribbed ideas for this film, sort of cribbed ideas from this film for his Lord of the Rings series, but the character of Gergi was basically Gollum in almost every way, stopping short of just saying "my precious." It was so uncanny. Well, for me at least, just his mannerisms, is the way that they made the character move, what they made it say, and everything. Even the voice sounded a bit like Donald Duck, but because it was in that character, sounded very much like Gollum. Whether or not there's a link, I don't know. The film also features, and I didn't even realise this, a Disney princess. Princess, let's get this name right, Elonwy, as voiced by Susan Sheridan, who also joins Taran on his quest. Again, she just kind of pops up out the middle of nowhere with a magic orb, of which its purpose or origin never explained. Neither is Elonwy's, to be quite fair. We don't actually know what she's a princess of, I'm sure. It's never explained. Why she was even in the dungeon that Taran was in is a complete mystery. Unless I did miss something. I don't think I did. Let me know. You feel free to correct me, of course, if I'm wrong. Absolutely. What I do find odd is that Princess Elonwy is very much the forgotten princess. I've never heard of her up until watching this film. Yet in the film, she is actually quite strong-willed and really does stand her ground on numerous occasions. To a point. All told, it does have quite a complicated story. A bit odd as well, all told. It just doesn't make any sense. It does, and I'm not just saying that because it's got a future seeing pig in it. I mean, I accept the kind of the weird way the story is. It's different. I like that. But the story kind of just jumps around as though parts of it were missing, perhaps. And is somewhat contradictory as well to itself. The power and the rules surrounding the Black Cauldron, they just seem to change as the story unfolds, bending at will to kind of suit the way they wanted the film to go. And we just really don't have enough explanation of the other magic elements to really truly understand everything that's going on in the film. It is, as I've said a few times, very dark and macabre, and it does actually get quite disturbing at times. We actually have in this movie elements of torture, and even a sacrifice. For a Disney, it does get quite graphic at times, and so the film has very little in the way of a soft edge. So for the little ones, be warned, you know. Overall, though, it is a wondrous and adventurous tale. It truly is, which has been beautifully animated throughout. It just seems a little unstructured, shall we say, and in terms of its execution. Like they kind of knew what they wanted from the movie. They just didn't really know how to piece it together, you know? It does feel like there's lots more to the story, if I'm honest, that we should have been told. Like, only a snippet was used in the movie and presented to us, which unfortunately sets the film back, in my opinion, from being anything truly great. And I believe it really did have so much more potential. It really did. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you here at SciFirst MovieTalk. We'd definitely love to have you back. But most of all, just, yes, thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye.